welcome back to the Pregnancy and Postnatal Entrepreneurs Collective podcast. I am here today with Rachel Smith, and Rachel is the founder of the Get More Clients Academy and a transformational business coach specializing in helping female entrepreneurs scale their businesses to consistent 5K months. Through her coaching and signature GROW formula, Rachel provides female business owners with the clarity and strategy needed to build a profitable and fulfilling business. When she's not coaching, Rachel enjoys traveling the world with her family, spending time at her second home in North Yorkshire Moors, or enjoying some gin-fueled catch-up with friends, which definitely sounds like fun to me. So Rachel and I met a couple of years ago, actually, when we were both involved in a business membership. And I was looking for some people to help cheer each other along. And a couple of us got together and we worked together for a little while as a peer group. So Rachel has kindly agreed to come on today. And we're going to talk a little bit about business strategy, but it's more of a how-to. But I'm going to let Rachel take off and tell us a little bit about why you do what you do, Rachel. What brought you here?
Well, that's such a big question, isn't it, for entrepreneurs? In a nutshell, how I got here is very much down to the birth of my first child, and when I had a break away from business and I met such amazing women through my antenatal group, and they're all having these really amazing careers that they were going back for. And when I got to the end of my maternity leave, I was like, really? Am I going back to that? And there wasn't anything wrong with the job. I think I'd just outgrown it, but because I knew I wanted to have a family, I'd kind of stayed in that situation. So going back to work really gave me that insight. And I think we often talk about those crossroads points. And I was like, right, okay, if I'm leaving my son, and this is like 18 years ago, like he's a big grown-up lad now. But if I'm going to leave my child, I want it to be meaningful. And I didn't really know what that meant. But what it allowed me to be is very open to exploring what that meant. And it took a long time, and really the birth of our second child, for me to really have clarity about that. And in that time, I had retrained as a coach and also in NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming and hypnosis. And as soon as I started doing that, the doors just widened, the doors just pinged open. And all of a sudden I was meeting like entrepreneurs, and I'd never been around entrepreneurs. I'd always worked with other people who worked for other companies, and my whole family up until that point had already been, they were already part of other organizations. But all of a sudden I'm in this entrepreneurial world, and as a parent, you're like, oh, this looks so much easier to have a family and be on the school run and all those things. So even though I started this when my son was a baby, he was going to be starting school when he was like 4.5. And I set a really clear intention that I was going to be on the school run. And lo and behold, I was on the school run. He'll be really glad I'm not on the school run now, taking him to college. But I was on the school run for all of those years, and certainly for my second child as well. So that's how I got to really becoming, an entrepreneur, getting into this type of business. And in terms of actually working with my current niche of amazing clients, really what I did is that I ran my business, and very naturally it evolves as you evolve. And, I started off with one niche, and then as I grew my business, I've ended up here, and I've worked with this group of clients for the last 5 years, really working with women who are currently earning, they're earning 1 or 2K every month in their business. And they're like, right, okay, how do I scale this? How do I make sure that I am taking a good wage home? How do I make sure that I'm impacting the world positively and supporting my family as well? So very much in this niche of supporting women to scale the business. I talk about 5K, but for some people, they just want to add another extra 2K. They might want to do that through recurring income, or it might be, I've got clients who've got businesses that are £250,000 every year in turnover. So, but 5K is kind of my sweet spot, and that's what I share a lot of content about.
Yeah, and in my audience, we'll have a mix of people who are nowhere near even making that 1K a month, and the people who are at the 1 to 2K who would be looking to add to that just to make their business more sustainable for themselves. But a lot of it, and it was really interesting you sharing your story there about how you got into it, because I think many people will resonate with that. A lot of my audience will have gotten into the work the same way. It's similar to my journey, starting with parenthood and then looking at the different options of flexibility around parenthood as well. And often when we start our businesses, especially when we come through for a passion project. So when people are coming into birthwork, a lot of the time they're coming from, I really valued the support I got and I want to give that to somebody else, or I didn't get the support I needed and I know people need it, so I want to learn how to provide that support to other people. So we're coming from that passion to help, which I'm sure when you're coming into coaching, you're coming from the same bit. But what we don't often get is the business part of it, and how do we turn that passion into a business that looks after us as well. And I know when I started, and I know this is a similar journey for many of my clients, that I knew what I provided was valuable. So I knew the antenatal classes that I could provide, that they were independent, that they were small group, that my community were going to benefit from the service. So when I put it out there, I was like, yay! And I waited. I was like, why does nobody want to book? Why is nobody coming on board? Why do they not understand how valuable this will be? What am I doing wrong? And I don't think I was doing anything wrong. I was learning as I go.
Yeah.
But what I want from this podcast, from everything that I do, is for people not to take as long to get to that point as it took me.
Yeah, I completely agree. And a lot of the things that I've put in place are the things that I felt were missing. And I was searching everywhere and I couldn't find it. And I was like, come on, do it yourself. And a lot of the events that I host and my membership, they're all things that I wish that I had access to when I was like looking to scale my business, because it's quite confusing out there. There's a lot of really brilliant information, brilliant courses, lots of things that you could do. And this is where I got stuck, is that I was making like 1 to 2K and I was like, okay, this has got legs, this thing. How do I scale that up? And I started to download all the freebies, follow the YouTube videos. At the time, YouTube podcasts were a massive thing, but I'd imagine now they'd be like, and you get ideas from all these different strands. But actually, as a solopreneur, how the heck are you supposed to implement all of those things? And also some of those things are not applicable to you as the individual that you are. And this is what I got stuck on, is that, I was looking for that picture. I wanted somebody to say, look, Rachel, you are here and you want to get over here, and these are the exact steps that you want to do. And if I'd had that, I would have saved myself a lot of time and thousands of pounds in buying things that I perhaps didn't really need at that point.
So if we're thinking about kind of birth workers and they've started their business and they're getting a few clients here and there, maybe they're getting 2 or 3 people for their classes, but they really want to put together a vision or a plan, or they want to know how do they make it so that it is starting to look after them, that they're starting to get some consistent income coming in.
I think that one of the biggest switches for me, and this might be helpful for your audience, is because we are passionate about helping and serving other people, and we're coming from that position, is to slightly switch our thinking and to start to think like a business owner, somebody who wants to run a successful business, because you understand that the longer that you're around delivering this essential service, the more people can work with you, get your help and support. And one of the things is really to get clear about what your next income goal is. So if you're currently making 500, 1,000, but actually in order for you to sustain this business and for you to be paid something, maybe you want to make like 2,500 every single month. And from that point, you can say you're going to be able to reverse engineer from that point, from that goal, back to, right, okay, if I want to generate that amount of money, what do I need to do? And it'll start to help you to understand how many people you want in each class. And that starts to become very tangible then, because if you've got 3 or 4 people currently in your class, and actually what you need is another 7, well, you've already got 3 or 4 people. So how did you get those people? What can you do again to get those additional 7? So really having that income goal is where I would start from. And it's got to be an income goal. Like I talk about 5K, but that might not be something that resonates with everybody that I speak to. So that income goal has to be meaningful for you. It's got to be like, actually, this is going to make a massive difference to me, to my business, my clients and my family when I achieve this. And it gives you that kind of fire in your belly to break out of your comfort zone and think about all the different ways that you can attract in those additional people and the things that you can do to really build on that as well.
Absolutely. And I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot here. Where do you sit on the kind of realistic? You know, we see people talking about don't be realistic. What is your ultimate goal? What do you want? And then with the let's be practical, let's break it all down and realism. But that sometimes edges into fear-based goals. So I'm just wondering where your thoughts are there.
So, yeah, I think in the past, I've got swept up. I've invested heavily in a mastermind that promised me like a 6-figure business. But actually, I don't want a 6-figure business. You know, I that process was valuable in itself because I was like, I'm not going to make it happen because it doesn't fill me with joy. The thought of having really large programs and really large memberships did not fill me with joy. And I think that comes from knowing who I am. I'm a coach, so I want to support my people. I want them to feel seen and supported. So it was probably one of the biggest lessons I had to learn was make sure that you have a meaningful goal for you. And one of the things that that allowed me to do is like, if I'm generating a consistent month of 5K, that means that I can actually start to generate other income streams in my life that doesn't come from this one business. And I really like that in a business model where you don't have just one thing that you're putting all your eggs in one basket. So for me, we've got like separate income goals that are coming in from other projects outside of my business, but my business has allowed that to happen. If I was just to look in my business, I have a number of different things. Some things where I don't have to show up. I've got digital products. I don't have to show up for those. The main ones, I can sell them over and over again. I have my membership, the Get More Clients Academy, where I am showing up. Am I showing up every day? I can do if people want me to, if they've got questions, but it's set up. I'm creating content, yes, but it's not heavy. And then my third stream of income is within the business is that one-to-one support. And that is where I work with somebody in a really deep sense and they get that deeper, faster level of transformation, but they're paying more for it. So having those 3 income streams into my business allows me to think of all the different ways, and it doesn't just rely on me to show up and do my thing. I can generate money in lots of different ways. Absolutely. I feel like I've gone around the houses with that one.
No, you haven't. I think into what I was speaking to, the word that you used was meaningful. So making the money goal a meaningful one. So rather than it being pie in the sky aspirational, that maybe you don't actually want, as you said. You know what I mean? Maybe I don't want to be a millionaire. Maybe I
don't want to be a millionaire.
I just want enough to be happy, or enough to be able to do this. And then what would that number be? So you're assigning meaning to the number rather than pulling it out of the sky. Yeah. I suppose. I thought it was really interesting as well, the way you were talking about the different setup within your business and the different ways different, I suppose, in one way, levels of service that you provide, and in another way, the different income streams that you provide. I find that, myself included, and a lot of us, that when we're thinking about diversifying our income streams, we think we'll add another service. So if I'm a lactation consultant, I'll teach antenatal classes, and then I'll teach baby massage, and then maybe I'll become a yoga instructor. And we're doing all these more trainings to offer more and more services, but that can kind of split our attention a lot in one way. And also it doesn't give us that kind of diversity of income streams that you were kind of describing there.
And it relies on you being present. And I think when you're running a business, you want time off, you might be ill, a family member might need you. You know, I am definitely in those sandwich years of having elderly parents and teenagers. They don't need you all the time, but when they need you, it's normally like a crisis at that point. So it's really thinking in a different way. So if you were talking about, you know, somebody who's got expertise in baby massage, you could create like a kind of like do-it-yourself mini course where somebody teaches baby massage, and that's what they sell. Or a digital card, like flash card. I've got my lead generation power pack, which is 30 different individual cards, digital cards, where when you've got a lead generator, so that's in our world a lead magnet, a freebie, that's great. Loads of people have these things to grow their audience, but they don't know how to go out and promote it. So my power pack, which is a set of digital cards, is basically like one thing that you could do every day to promote your lead magnet. I mean, that is like, I've created it once, people are using it, people are buying it, I just have to sell it. I don't have to sell that many of them, and I can sell them all the time. And it's almost like a no-brainer for people because it's less than £10. So people can try something, see if I'm for them. They can get some successes from it. And I don't need to be there telling them every day what to do. That digital card creates that. So it's start to think about your business in a different way. So that kind of openness to thinking, okay, I've got all of these skills and experience. How can I create something of value to my ideal client that means that I don't have to be there delivering it? And this is when you start to get that real freedom and leverage into your business, because you can't leverage your time. As soon as, let's say you've got 20 hours a week to run in-person events, once those 20 hours have gone, that's it. Your income is capped at that point. And also it allows you, I think when you bring in like digital products, it allows you to elevate who you are as well and to reach more people, you know, people who perhaps geographically out of your catchment, but they like what you do, you can actually reach more of those people as well.
Absolutely. And I think there's some mindset struggles that I know people have that come up with these things that I'd love your thoughts on. And one of them is that as helpers, as service providers, we want to be doing the intensive help, the intensive support. And sometimes there can be a block of, well, what value can someone actually get from a digital product? It's, let's say, a mini course. Okay. So we've got this digital mini course that someone does, you know, by themselves versus the live interactive course that I teach, and I know they're going to get the most out of it. So I understand what you're talking about, which is the kind of flow and being able to help more people. But sometimes people can get caught up on but that's not as good. So how do we kind of reconcile those things?
I think that's a really good question. I'll probably go back to the first point that I made, is that thinking like a business owner and really stepping into that CEO mindset, and valuing that even if you're not in person, what you're going to create, what you're going to sell is really valuable. And perhaps you're creating something that isn't available for that person in their local area. Or delivered by people who are not for them. And I always think of the NLP kind of philosophy, which is about reframing something so that it sits comfortably with your belief system. And, you know, it's kind of like you're serving more people. So instead of thinking they're not going to get as much value, it's like I'm making this more accessible to more people. More people are going to get my support. More people are going to be helped through whatever situation they're in. More people are going to feel like this. More people are going to let go of whatever it is that, challenge, problem that you help solve.
Absolutely. And just for the audience, I'll give a personal example. So I deliver and teach one-to-one antenatal classes and group antenatal classes, always live, either in person or online. But I've also created a short mini webinar course on breastfeeding in hospital that is for those people who have either run out of time to do a full breastfeeding class, don't have the time or the resources to pay for that one-to-one interactive class. But if they can at least get out of the hospital breastfeeding because they've got a few tips and tricks to help them with those first few days, then they're still being helped in their journey. And then, there's resources that can point to more support should they need it, but it still does help those people without it being that full course that not everybody can either afford or not everybody has the time or the inclination to do.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head really, Neve, is that if you can create a solution that deals with those two factors, time, money, and also probably accessibility for those people as well, that's when your product, your service, whatever it is that you're creating starts to be of value, because people will buy anything that saves them time, that solves a problem and gives them something that they need as well.
Absolutely. So, when people are trying to sit down to think about their strategy or their business plan or how they're going to set out their suite of services, what kind of tips or tricks do you have for them?
So many. Okay, so I talk about this as being like your roadmap, and if anybody looks up anything afterwards, after you've listened to this about me, you will see that it's like called your 5K roadmap, but actually it can be your 3K roadmap, it could be your 1K roadmap if you're just getting started. But the principles are the same, and it goes back to what we said at the beginning. I wish I had this at the beginning, because it would have saved me a lot of time. So my philosophy is that you have your 3 different income streams, and you have your first income stream, which is that, like, hell yes, like, of course I'm going to invest in that. That could be a digital product. If you're talking about somebody who's running a class, this could be somebody coming along to the class and they're just paying for one fee to see if the class is for them. That's great. So that's like your introductory offer. This allows somebody to come into your world and try you out and actually realize how amazing you are. And then the second offer that you really want to then lead them into, if it's appropriate, is that kind of group offering. So again, for some of your practitioners, Neve, it'll be people who are running in-person workshops. It could be a membership. It could be absolutely anything. But this is your group activity. This is where you just have to show once, and you're getting paid by multiple people. And it's also where I really want to encourage people to think about really putting in place something that's going to help you feel a lot less stressed in your business, which is a recurring income. And this is where you're getting people to pay for their services every single week, every single month, so that actually you've got that income coming in, and anything that you generate on top of that is like happy days. And then the third product is your one-to-one stuff. So when you're working with somebody, and this is how you differentiate from all of those other streams, is this is the product where somebody is getting your expertise. They're going to achieve the results faster because they're working with you privately. And in terms of value, this is the price point that is the most money. This is for really dealing with somebody who wants to work with you one-to-one and is prepared to pay for it as well. And that's how you differentiate between the 3 different things. So with that, I would always start with that kind of low-end product, which could be a digital product. If you're thinking about going into that, it could be flashcards that I've just mentioned. It could be a one-off paid for class where you're recording an area of your expertise. But you want to be thinking when you're creating that and when you're selling that is where do people go to after that? You've solved one problem. That's all you can do in that hell yes offer is solve one problem. So where do they go after that? And for me, I would always have the next step in mind. So if you're looking to fill that group offer, that middle kind of offer, you'd be wanting to make sure that your digital offer, that hell yes offer, leads them naturally into that group offer. And this is one of the things that we use in the Get More Clients Academy, is the idea of product stacking, so that you're creating an audience of buyers so that people are coming in, they're like, oh my God, I love working with Neve. This is amazing. Yes, of course, I'm going to move into her membership, her program, whatever it is next. And then there'll always be those people who go, yeah, I love all of that stuff, but I don't want to work in a group. I want to get that one-to-one support. And you make that available as well.
Absolutely. And I think it's a really interesting way to look at it. And it's so simple as well. The way you explain it, it's just so clear and it's so simple. And I'm thinking of some examples that might work for different people in the audience. So for example, a birth doula. So they might have a digital product or a little mini course on eating healthy during pregnancy, for example, full of recipes and things to look after yourself while you're pregnant. Then they could have a membership for people who are pregnancy and postpartum that is weekly group support, you know what I mean? Any of your pregnancy or baby questions answered. And then they could have their big birth doula package, which is their one-to-one antenatal visits, attending the birth, and then possible postnatal visits afterwards as well. So I think, does that sound like a package in the way you're describing them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really clear example for your industry about how you can move people through that. And it just really starts to help you think about different streams of income as well.
Absolutely, because not everyone who signs up for the healthy eating course or package or whatever it might be is going to join the membership or is going to be a one-to-one client, but you're still building income from lots of people in the little thing, few more people in the middle thing, and less people for that really time-consuming support.
I think also the thing is that for your industry, and it's the same for my industry as well, is that people are really, like, your clients are really vulnerable. They're going through massive change. They might be becoming parents for the first time. It's absolutely huge. And actually, they've got a really short window of time to find the expert who's going to help them. And people only buy from you when trust has been developed. So actually, for people in your industry, I'd say that time is like an essence. You really want to be really clear about your suite of offers and how you're going to use it, and you might even only need those 3 products. And just be really consistent with creating it and selling it, because actually what people are looking for is they're looking to you as a trusted person, and that is the only time when they will come and work with you. And trust is created when people have tried you out. So actually having those low-end products, offerings, whatever that is, it allows that trust to be developed, and then you become top of mind in terms of an expert. So another doula isn't actually going to come into those people's minds because they're committed to you. You've already developed the trust that is required to move them through to the other 2 offers.
Absolutely. And you made a really good point there, which I usually bring up, is around the short time frame that we have to work with our clients. And that in particular, I find what can be really helpful is that no matter where in the pregnancy or postnatal space that we work, that those lower end products or really needs to be created for pregnancy, even if we offer postnatal services, because we want to build up that trust during that period of time, because the time is just so short.
Yeah, it is so short. And people might come back to you if they have a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, whatever pregnancy, but to get that initial contact with somebody, it's quite focused, isn't it? Which is exciting, because it's like, right, okay, we talk about a customer journey. Like for me, a customer journey could be up to 2 years, but for you guys, it could be like could be like a year, couldn't it? Like
And
somebody comes into your world, they
even
come and do
less.
that, yeah, pregnancy stuff, and then yeah, exactly. So actually, it makes it like if you were to map out your customer journey, I think you could have some fun with that. You could like, what are the fears? What are the challenges? How can you help and support them to overcome that, and really map out what it is that you're going to create? And then all of a sudden, you've got like this suite of offers and income streams coming in where you're not feeling exhausted.
Absolutely. And, so we've talked now about trying to creating that roadmap or the offer suite. What is there anything else that you feel would be helpful for people?
I think it's a mindset piece, isn't it? It's
Mm-hmm.
really so. Like, I will share this because whenever I share it, people go, right, I've got this now. So when we talk about it, don't we, Neve? So like the person that you are now is already good enough to do all of those things. You just might need some help and support in taking action on it, getting clarity about what it is, and maybe you need some tech support. But don't get hung up on the tech because it can be really easy to resolve. But the person that you are now just needs to evolve into thinking and feeling like the person who's just got the business that we've just described. So at the moment, you might be feeling overwhelmed, thinking, oh my God, that's a lot to digest. How am I going to shift my thinking? But it's really just transporting yourself to some point in the future, maybe in 6 months' time, and think, right, in 6 months' time, somehow I've achieved all of these things I want to achieve, and write that out like it's happened. Like, and I use the journaling prompt, it's normal for me. So it's normal for me to be running a digital online course and you just create this kind of future picture of yourself. And that's what you're moving towards. So that's great, isn't it? And this is where people get hung up because they think, well, I just have to wait until I've done this, until this is perfect, until this is ready. And how many people have heard this? And one of my most successful clients doesn't even have a website. So sometimes I hear people saying, well, I'll do that when I've got a website. And it's like, you don't need to wait for a website. And then it's really stepping into that, like, there I am in 6 months' time with everything that I'm looking to create. How am I currently feeling? Probably flipping amazing and all of those things, like grateful that you've taken this journey and had that trust. And then you want to be thinking, like, in 6 months' time with that success, what am I thinking? What am I doing on a daily basis? Write that down. Maybe it means you're going to show up and do a live every week. Maybe it means you're going to be on social media more consistently. Write it down. Maybe you're going to go and do talks in groups. Write it down. And then coming back to the now is really thinking, instead of waiting until you become that future version, is that you encompass that future version of you now. So if you want to be seen as a leader, as an expert in your field, what do you need to do on a daily basis to think and feel and act like that future version? So start taking action, start thinking about what my offer is going to be. What does my offer suite look like? What do my pricing look like? How am I going to show up? And that's how you make that biggest shift, is that you get into the mindset of that future version of you who's already achieved those things, and you get into that now. So you start to program your mind to think like, I've got this is normal for me. And then you start to take action from that point as well. And that is, like, for me, I wish somebody had explained that to me sooner.
Absolutely. And I'm just thinking back to kind of when I was starting to figure out this mindset stuff and the business end of things. And one of the things that I did in this sort of future pacing, which I'm not sure whether I knew I was doing at the time, but I was like, well, if I'm running a successful antenatal and lactation business, what would I be doing and what would that look like? And a simple part of that was actually setting up a desk space and giving myself work hours. Okay?
Yeah,
So it was
I
as simple
agree.
as saying, I have a desk. This is where I work. At the time, it was in my sitting room in the corner while the kids were running around. But I had a desk and I gave myself work hours. And during those hours, I was going to be at work, whether that was
Yeah,
seeing clients or working on the business, because a successful
exactly.
business owner understands that they're a business owner.
Yeah, exactly. And having those boundaries, I think that's like a big shift, really, isn't it? Especially if you've got young people at
Mhm.
home, you can suddenly be at the beck and call of everybody when you're working from home. But actually, if you were working somewhere else for somebody else, you wouldn't be as available. And I know that's kind of a little bit topsy-turvy because lots of us get into business to be around for our families, but we do need to have time
Mhm.
to work on our business, and that is one of the biggest shifts. And actually, it reminded me that it's why I've ended up in this space, because this was our nursery, and I used to work in the dining room, and every day I used to pack up my office. But working in the dining room, I was available
Mhm.
to everybody. So it was one of those biggest shifts. Like, actually, Rachel, if you're going to make your business successful, where are you going to be presenting from? Where are you going to be working from? Go and create that space.
Totally. And I have now moved into this room, which is kind of like a junk room because it leads from the house into the back garden. But I do have my own space and the door can close. I'm not in the sitting room anymore. And we are doing building work this year. So I will actually get my own office. But it's a bit of a journey, and it starts with even having that space at the kitchen table, that it's your space, and then thinking, well, what do I need to do next? How do I level up?
Yeah.
Where am I at, and how can I make this what I want it to be?
Yeah, and there's all sorts of different ways of doing it. You don't have to like create a space in the home. You can go and work in a cafe.
Mm-hmm.
You can go and work in a co-working space. But I think you're absolutely right. It's about that next level, isn't it? What's going to take me from where I am in terms of my thinking, my feeling, and my doing to where I want to be. And it's stepping into that now, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. So is there anything else that we didn't touch on that you feel you would like to share or that might be beneficial?
I think one of the things is we can't kind of pretend that growing an audience isn't important.
Mm-hmm.
It is important. So a lot of what we've covered is very much strategy. It's very much giving you that idea of different income streams, really having that income goal. And one of the key elements from that, and I'm sure Neve must talk about this on here, is about growing an audience of people, however you choose to do that. Obviously, one of the best ways, as we know, is through growing an email list, because that's where you earn the information.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think having a strategy about growing your audience is absolutely essential. So have that top of mind as well. It's like, how can I add more people to my world? How can I reach more people? How can I be seen by more people? And how can I support more people?
Absolutely. And I think circling back to what I said and how I started, I thought that if I build it, they will come, not really realizing that nobody knew what I had built and I actually had to tell them.
Yeah.
So we have to build that
It's
audience.
exactly the same. When I was retraining to be a coach, obviously I wasn't an entrepreneur. I wasn't an entrepreneur at the time, but we did one little bit on marketing when
Mm-hmm.
actually it should have been like running throughout it. So if you guys can get some support from Neve about marketing, about growing your audience, I would be drinking that up.
Thank you very much, Rachel. And if people want to find out more about what it is that you do, where is best to send them?
So a lot of what we covered is actually in my free 5K roadmap. And like I said, even if 5K is not your goal, it's still relevant. And it's a bit.ly link. So can I share that?
I will put that in the show
Brilliant.
notes.
Yeah, so there's a bit.ly link. And then my favourite place to hang out is, well, it's actually in my home, but if we were looking in terms of social media, is on Instagram. And I'm Rachel Smith. So that's Rachel Smith. Underline BG for Rachel Smith Business Grow.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And it was absolutely
Pleasure.
lovely with speaking with
Thank you
you
for letting
today.
me.
And for everyone else, I hope you will join us again next week. And if you want more business tips for birth and postpartum workers, make sure you are subscribing to the podcast.